So tonight we're doing something a little different, and this is something that we're doing because it's a little overdue. And what that is, we're not doing our normal hip hop coverage. So we're going to cover a disaster that is going on in Gary, Indiana.
In Gary, Indiana tonight, fear and outrage boiling over.
I'm in a blackout, one of the worst ever for Indiana.
There's no gas, no power, nowhere to go.
As thousands are still in the dark nearly 2 weeks after devastating storms and tornadoes tore through Indiana.
This is day 13.
Day 13 without power.
It certainly is.
73-year-old Joetta Walker has lived in Gary her entire life.
I feel hurt
Why?
because I feel like they could do better than this.
She's lost more than $700 worth of food and has been relying on drop-offs from family. Most concerning, she can't use her breathing machine.
What has been the impact of you not being able to use this?
It's making it very difficult for me to rest at night because the whole thing is you don't get enough oxygen.
Indiana Governor Mike Braun today demanding an investigation into local utility company NIPSCO, raising questions about its preparation for and response to the severe weather. NIPSCO telling NBC News crews are working 24 hours a day to repair and rebuild infrastructure damaged by this historic storm.
This is the kind of work that's been taking place here in Gary the past couple of weeks. Crews having to reinstall and repair lines through what you see are incredibly tough conditions.
Gary's mayor, Eddie Melton, says the ongoing crisis in his predominantly black city is unacceptable.
Is race a factor here?
I think race could be a factor in terms of black communities, brown communities are often overlooked in tragic situations.
As of this afternoon, nearly 10,000 NIPSCO customers in Northwest Indiana are still without power. The lights just turning back on for Cheney Weber and her two granddaughters.
I feel like we still came last, so I feel like we at the bottom before everybody else.
At the time of making this video, the electricity has been restored. I believe the reports are 98 or 99%. That means after 12 days, it's still somebody that still is without electricity. So tonight we will use our influence to make noise. We will rally together to help somebody. That's what we're doing this evening. And together we can invoke positive change.
What does this place mean to you?
I mean, really, to be honest, I'm here in support of Eddie. You know, Eddie's been there every day. Eddie's been doing everything from running the city to cutting down trees.
So this is Freddie Gibbs. He's a local artist, local rapper from Gary, Indiana, who's been helping with the efforts to restore power. There's been a lot of outreach to provide resources, food, and whatever else that can help them get through a temporary time without electricity. I'm sure they needed more than just food, but that's the only thing that's coming to mind right now. But because after so long, you whatever food you had it's not good without refrigeration. So that's the one thing I'm certain that they needed, though.
So much love to Trader Truth and Keith Lee and all the guys that came from outside of Gary and showed love and came in and really came together with us to do stuff. Like I said, I haven't got boots on the ground yet, but I've been seeing the things that they've been doing. You know, much love to the hip hop community. Like I said, Trader Truth, we love you for that. Keith Lee, thank you. You know, Pastor Eric Boone, you know, giving love to everybody out there in Gary, man. Much love. Pray for the city. This isn't a problem that started with the storm. You know, we are a predominantly black city that, you know, tends to get ignored, you know, when it comes to certain things. And, you know, and like I said, and I'm glad that we got a mayor like Eddie that can start to shed light on these things. You know, I would say the previous administrations probably didn't do that, you know, and it's just sad that it takes a national crisis, you know, for us to, you know, get some type of attention whatsoever.
So there was a 73-year-old woman in Gary, Indiana with asthma. She got a nebulizer. You know, the machine that helps you breathe, put the medicine in and you inhale it, you know, when your lungs aren't working right, they're not cooperating. It's been sitting there useless for the past 2 weeks because it plugs into a wall and there's no power in that wall. So she's been getting by on an inhaler and she'll tell you straight up, it doesn't work the same. And I've been thinking about that all day and I want to talk about it. And I already know this ain't the same type of segment that I usually do, right? I know that and I don't care. On August 11th, a storm comes through northwest Indiana. Winds up to 100 miles an hour, takes down trees, utility poles, power lines. More than 370,000 NIPSCO customers lost their power. That's over 60% of the whole utility. Now, most of those got their lights back. That's real. I want to be fair. The company's been out there working for sure. But nearly 2 weeks later, thousands of people in Gary still sitting in the dark. And Gary, let me tell y'all about Gary if you don't know it. 69,000 people, about 55,000 of them are black. Rust Belt City, Steel Town, lost the industry, lost the population, and it's been getting disinvested for decades now. And that's not an opinion. That's just the history. And here's what 2 weeks with no power actually looks like. People throwing out every bit of food in the refrigerator, missing work because how you get to work, driving around looking for somewhere to charge a phone, trying to figure out how to get medication that's supposed to be cold, people taking whatever food they got left down to the park and cooking it over charcoal, trying to eat it before it spoils. Schools were closed, whole start of school year gone. And this is the one that got me. It's been reported that people are getting billing notices from the utility while they still don't have electricity. 2 weeks, no lights, and here comes the bill. Now, Freddie Gibbs is from Gary. That's home for him. And he's out on tour right now. And he's putting money behind the relief effort while he's out there. But it's what he said that I want to get to, because he didn't say, hey, pray for Gary. He went somewhere else with it. He points to the lack of resources from the state and government. That's not new. It's not a storm thing. They've been needing resources. They've been needing funding for youth programs and things like that for a long time now. And then he said the part that's actually the whole story, that it's sad it takes a national crisis for us to get some attention. Now, what does that mean? It means the storm didn't break Gary. The storm just turned the lights off just long enough for everybody else to finally look at it. The problem was already there. The storm just made it visible. And there's one more thing that I read that I just can't shake. And it's from a resident. It's not from a politician, not a celebrity, just a woman who lives there. She says something like, we're always in survival mode in Gary. And that's probably why there wasn't more of an uproar at first, because in the first few days, everybody was like, okay, we're used to this. And then she said, it's not okay for us to continually be in survival mode. And I would agree. Y'all hear that? The reason nobody screamed for the first few days is because they're already used to that. That's the part. That's the whole part right there. When a community's been getting less for long enough, They stop noticing they're getting less. It just becomes Tuesday. It becomes normal. And you adjust and you make it work and you don't complain because complaining never did anything before. And I'm telling y'all the truth. That's not just Gary. That's a whole lot of places. That's a whole lot of neighborhoods some of y'all watching right now grew up in, where the street lights been out for 6 years and everybody just walks around it, where the parks ain't got grass since you was a kid. We get used to it. And getting used to it is how it stays that way. So let me give you where it stands because I don't want to leave y'all in it. So the governor of Indiana called for an investigation into the utility company. And I want to be clear about something. That's a Republican governor. And this is not even some left, right type thing. And I'm not going to turn into that tonight. He said the company has a monopoly on people that pay monthly expecting to maintain its service, and it didn't hold up its end of the bargain. That's his position. And the mayor of Gary said 12 days is too long, and the pace to repair it is just unacceptable. And now there's an active lawsuit. Somebody in a neighboring county filed and is asking for a class action, saying the utility company didn't keep up with the tree and vegetations near the power lines, and which probably caused it all. And here's the thing that I think matters the most. The church has been feeding people, relief efforts been pulling in thousands, congregations handing out food care packages in parking lots, neighbors running extension cords, sharing generators, cooking with each other. You know, nobody rode in and saved Gary. Gary's been holding Gary down. You know, I've spent this whole show, this whole month, really talking about people in courtrooms, men on trial, who flipped on who, autopsy photos, somebody's worst day, every day at 5 o'clock. And I'll be honest with y'all, that's what seems to be popular, right? That's just true. I'd be lying if I said anything otherwise. But this right here is a predominantly black city where a 73-year-old woman couldn't breathe right for 2 weeks, and hip hop media ain't say a word about it. And I'm not pointing at anybody because I ain't say nothing either until today. So that's on me, the same as anybody else. But I want to be the kind of channel that talks about this too. Not just the trials, not just who got arrested, but Gary, where Michael Jackson came from. That's the Jackson 5. That's Freddie Gibbs. That city gave this culture something real, and it's been forgotten about for at least 40 years now. And it took a storm knocking the lights out for anybody to look. So if you got it to give it. I'm putting a link in the description. If you don't got it, don't trip. That's fine too. Ain't nobody judging. But at least know it's happening. If you know somebody in a place like that, a place where everybody's used to it, call them. That's free. So that's just me. That's my 2 cents. What's yours? Would this have taken place in a rich suburb? Yes or no? Answer in the comments below. Y'all knew about Gary before tonight? Yes or no? Be honest. Answer in the comments below. That woman said they didn't scream at first because they're used to it. What's the thing in your neighborhood that everybody's just gotten used to? The thing that's been broke so long, nobody even mentions it anymore. So if y'all new here, I'm gonna get on these questions. So first question, would this have taken place in a rich suburb? Probably not this long. I think that's the difference. I mean, I know I mentioned that it's a predominantly black city. I don't think that's what leads to this. Not necessarily race, but definitely socioeconomic status. So I think this is more likely to happen to people that are already short on resources. Because when you're short on resources, you're likely an area that's short on resources is likely short on a lot of things. Um, you know, healthcare, education, all of it's going to be short if it's not a lot if it's not a lot of money in the area, and if it's not a lot of money in the area, it's going to you have to have somebody to speak up for the area to make noise. You know, the saying, squeaky wheel gets oil. I think these well-to-do neighborhoods, suburbs, they know how to be the squeaky wheel a little better um, than, say, a neighborhood that's lacking. They protest through emails, through their voting. They know how to hit these higher ups where it hurts. So, and that's how the game is played. Unfortunately, a lot of lower socioeconomic status areas, get frustrated and maybe go about it the wrong way. That feeling is real. That feeling is real. But I think that those feelings still need to be channeled through uh, through the right lanes, through using the right vehicles to get the most out of that you're feeling. Let that go in the wrong way because you lose the impact. These your voice is your power. Your voice is your power. You have to write emails to the right person, and they have to know that you mean business. You're gonna rally. You're gonna um, get people to get out and vote. You know, so it sounds like they're taking it serious. They're elected officials. It sounds good. We'll see. Time will tell. Um, yeah, I knew about Gary before tonight or before the 11th. I know the Bears are moving there. The Bears know about Gary. I think, or I don't know if they're moving to Gary exactly, or they're moving close to Gary. They're putting a brand new stadium, I believe, somewhere close to there. So they're, about to take advantage of some relatively inexpensive real estate, or at least in comparison to Chicago. Maybe that will help. They lost a lot of the steel industry or factories left in the 90s, but maybe the Bears will start a trend, bringing some more infrastructure back, which will in in return kind of force the electricity companies, utility companies there to step their game up. I'm pretty sure if they had a heavy player like the Chicago Bears in the vicinity, remotely in the vicinity, they couldn't let that happen. I mean, you just can't. So so the woman said that they didn't scream at first because they're used to it. Well, yeah, we get used to that. And honestly, I kind of felt the same way. I didn't think 11 days later, 12 days later, we still be talking about this. After a few days, I thought, okay, that'll stop. And then it didn't. Like, okay, another day or so. Then it didn't. Okay, it's got to be another day, maybe. And it didn't. So, yeah, I kind of felt the same. I don't know. I don't know what's broken around my neighborhood that's not been fixed. I'm sure it's something. I mean, I kind of turn a blind eye. It would have to be pretty significant if it's around me and I didn't see it, because I may have seen something and just kind of blind to it like anybody else. I guess that's the point of the question. Anyway, that's all I got. Thank you guys. I really appreciate you all. Please share, please like, please subscribe. Let's make our voice heard. Let's help somebody if we can. All right. Thank you guys. Peace.